me. Robin Hood was so much fun last night. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I can't... Was that really just a long ploy, Fidge? That's honestly impressive. Hello, YouTube. Hello, hello. We are back to do some more reading, which I'm very excited about. Last night we were here reading The Many Adventures, or Merry Adventures? Adventures. Both many and merry, of Robin Hood. And that was a lot of fun. Tonight we are getting back into the Patchwork Girl of Oz. We've still got, I think there was like 9 chapters left, potentially. So probably, most likely, we will finish it on Sunday night. And then we actually are gonna get back into Robin Hood after that and read the rest of the stories from that book, because that was so much fun. Yay is a strong word for an Oz book. It's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And the next chapter is super questionable. Oh wait, let me change my mic setting. There we go. I've turned down the gain a bit because I'm speaking a little more loudly for reading, as opposed to ASMR. Okay. We're not ragging on the Patchwork Girl, the character, Loki. This is important. We are ragging on L. Frank Baum. And the fact that in book number 7, he's decided to just be weirdly racist. So I'm going to be honest. Usually I am doing cold reading. Okay? I am coming at it having never read it before. I don't know what's gonna show up in the text. So when you're surprised by things, I am equally surprised by things. Sorry, I'm just getting the YouTube chat was not working. Now it is. Hello. Hi over on YouTube. Hi Buddha. Hi Sean. Adrian. Waxtooth. Adrian, thank you so much for hanging out on the YouTube side as well. Yes, if anyone on the Twitch side is able to open up the YouTube stream in just like another window, that really helps with the watch hours. Super appreciated, especially as we're getting the channels off the ground. Yeah. So it's been kind of it's kind of taken us aback, this book, and I took a little peek forward into this chapter because this next chapter is called the Tottenhots, which is a new group of people that they meet that lives in Oz. And why, yes, that does sound very close, doesn't it, to a certain ethnic slur. So I peeked ahead in the chapter. There is a good chunk of the chapter that happens like before they even meet these people. And so we are going to be reading the chapter. There may be certain things that I like leave out, but I just want to give you a heads up. I don't usually go ahead and like do like spoil things or whatever, but this obviously is a racist depiction. The people in the book have red skin, like I think like bright red, you know, skin, but it's very yeah, I don't know if it's against TOS, it's just very uncomfortable, and like I feel uncomfortable kind of platforming it, you know? It's like, you know how we talked about how problematic and uncomfortable the Oompa Loompas are? Especially because in Roald Dahl's first version of his manuscript, they weren't Oompa Loompas, like they were straight up, like, I think he said, like, they were like African pygmies or something, and his editor was like, Roald, you can't do that, and so he changed it to like this, oh no, they're just like an imaginary race of people, but like still super uncomfortable, because in the book at least they're still like wearing leaves and animal skins, and it's obviously this very like stereotyped portrayal that he's doing. This is also very very kind of uncomfortable. Apparently they're just in this chapter, and so yeah, I just wanted to give that a heads up and to say, what the fuck, Baum? And how did he get away with like just swapping 2 letters? Although I don't know, okay, I don't actually know if he would have considered the word a slur at the time he used it. Hold on, I'm not excusing it. I don't know if like in his mind he thought that was a slur, but it doesn't really matter, because either way, his depiction of these people is like stereotyping and dehumanizing. So apparently in one of his other books where these people are mentioned, it like states that they're like not as like intelligent as people. Like it's like fucked up. It's fucked up. So yes. He transposed 2 letters in a racist word for a South African ethnic group. Yeah. So it's pretty upsetting. We are gonna still, a lot of the, like, I think they don't even meet them till like halfway through the chapter, but I might not be reading every line. And I just want you to know, regardless of the things that I read or not, that I'm saying a huge fuck you, Baum. I mean, I say that all the time for various reasons. Fuck you, L. Frank Baum. But like, this is really, it's messed up. Hi, my guy. IQ varies, everyone's different, we should celebrate it. We should celebrate our differences. IQ does vary. IQ variation has nothing to do with ethnicity, though. So that's a very like outdated and problematic view. I'm not sure that's what you're saying. I'm not saying you are saying that, but just in case, that's a nah. No. The Tim Burton version had them pretty close back to the original depiction in a flashback. Wait, the Tim Burton version of the Oompa Loompas? People were allowed to do wild things back then, but there were still people with moral codes that knew it was wrong. Good people have always existed, thankfully. Yeah, I mean, what year was this written again? 1913? And it was written for, like, the children of white America, you know? It's hard to figure out where Baum himself is landing, because he's doing all this, I mean, I'm gonna say in the bad column, because also he has scraps being made. They're like, we're making you to be our slave, And yet Margala is not like viewed as a villain. People are not like, hey Margala, that's fucked up, you can't have slaves. They're like, yeah, Scraps, you have to go back to Margala when they bring her back to life because you're her slave. Like, so that, you know, but then we also have Scraps going into the world being like very confident in herself and being like, I'm beautiful, the color of my skin is beautiful, the many colors of my skin are beautiful, which like that aspect feels like he was trying to be like positive, but there's so much like negative messaging in it that it ends up being a net negative. Yeah, and that Margalot's like, let's only give her a few brains because we don't want her to be too smart because then she'll think she's too good for her station. Like, there's so much fucked up stuff in it. I like Scraps as a character though, even though I feel like the way that the illustrator is drawing her is problematic, but she's so like confident and spunky and like just believes in her own like worth and beauty. Like, I feel like she overall is a positive character, but there's so much fucked up stuff in the story. Anyway. There's my disclaimer. I feel like it's important to just get out of the way right away. 120 years from now, I'm sure that language and culture will have changed enough that we might all be judged. Absolutely. And that's why sometimes, like, in certain scenarios, there are words that literally at a certain point in time were the accepted and proper terminology. Like, it was like the polite terminology. But then over time, it gets turned into a slur because of how it's used. And in those cases, it's like very important to be like, okay, at the time that this person was using this word, it actually like was not a slur, right? But oftentimes, even if maybe they didn't mean it in a cruel way, it still wasn't like the most polite way to put things. And in L. Frank Baum's case, he's just being terrible. So, yeah. Anyway, like the word for a bundle of sticks. Oh yeah, like that was in our Robin Hood story last night. That's totally fine in that context. But that one was never fine as a term for the people. Right? That one is fine for a bundle of sticks. It's still fine to use for like a cigarette, you know, in certain slang. But never used in a... And nowadays, there's some amount of reclamation going on, but that needs to be used like within the community. I wonder if Baum just likes to have unintentionally have shown what his time was like culturally and vocabulary wise. I don't know if he was thinking that. Like, I doubt he was thinking like, oh, I'm leaving like a time capsule of what views and language are like. I think it's just, well, yeah, unintentional. That's just how he, like, that would have been normal to him. The R word is a good, yeah, the R slur. Yeah. And also, like, the terms for little people have changed a couple of times. And, like, gone through phases where it's, like, a certain word was, like, used by themselves, and then it, you know, turns into a slur because of the way it's used, and then the word needs to be changed. The R word used to be a medical term. I mean, I don't know if it's still used in a medical context. But yeah, it was never meant to be a slur originally, but yeah. There have always been abolitionists too. Thankfully, yes. Yeah. I do not know the proper words for a lot of stuff, so I just don't talk about it. I think that there have been a couple cases here on stream where I've been reading a book and I've said a word that I've never seen before, and you guys have been like, holy shit, no, don't say that. And I literally have never heard it in my life. So, and once I know, I'm like, oh shit, okay, now I know. But like, actual ignorance, and I'm not meaning ignorance in like a mean way, but like actually just like not knowing something and then learning, I don't think we can get mad at people for that. That's not the case with L. Frank Baum. Baum is a misogynist, yeah. Yeah, DJ, I mean, I've said that word on stream because that word has nothing to do with anything racial. It just sounds similar. And every time I do, there's this part of me that gets like ready for someone in chat to be like, what did you say? And for me to be like, no, it's nothing to do with anything. Like, it's yeah, nothing to do with anything. The R word shows up in a lot of engine manuals. Well, yeah, when it's being used no, the word is still often used. Like, you will have like a material that's like, this fabric has like a flame retardant put on it. That is still the name for something that slows down flames. My painting supplies, I've got like an acrylic medium that you mix that is an acrylic retardant, as in it slows down the drying time of acrylic paint. It's okay to use that word in those contexts. That is not a slur. Yeah. I mean, somewhere like here, like on Twitch or whatever, it might be picked up by Automod because it can't tell nuance like that, but it's not a slur in those contexts. Mix boy, thank you for the 20 stream streak. Thank you. Is anyone else like so deeply disappointed that the R slur has come back? There were like some year, like 5 or 10 years there where it was out. Like, you did not say it and you would get called out for saying it. And now it's back everywhere. How did that happen? I thought we, like, I'm not okay with that word. And it's just like, I thought we'd, as society, had outgrown that one, and it is so disappointing to see it back. The R word was introduced as a medical term to replace other terms that started as medical terms but became slurs. Moron, feeble-minded. And other terms were literally medical descriptions, but they became insults, so they started using the R slur. Yeah, well, not only that terms for mental disabilities become slurs, like idiot, right? But also for other kinds of disabilities, there's a deep ableism in it. Like, calling someone dumb means you can't speak. So you could be like fully of sound mind, but like, you know, someone cut out your tongue and you are dumb. But the idea that because someone can't speak, that they're stupid, that doesn't hold up, right? So there's a lot of ableism in these terms. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's very disappointing and infuriating to see that kind of language coming back. What is the proper word for little people? It is little people, I believe. Yeah. I think the proper term for the medical condition is still called dwarfism, I think. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Genuinely trying to be correct about that. Did that person have an 88 in the name? 88 is like a dog whistle for Nazis. I didn't clock that though. Mentally disabled? Yeah, I think that's okay. I don't know, that one feels dangerous to me, but I don't know if it's like straight up a slur. There's probably like, I don't know. Because I feel like mentally even, like, because calling someone mental, like, became an insult. I don't know. I feel like also it's gotten like, well, okay, neurodivergence, like, because mentally disabled, like, you can, there's two different kinds of categories, right? There's developmental disabilities, which are not necessarily the same kind of thing as like other mental health issues. You know, like intellectual disabilities, like there's different categories. So yeah, you're still learning to say indigenous instead of Indian or Native American. Okay, so I'm not American, so I'm not totally sure. I think, isn't Native American, is that a preferred term in America? In Canada. Oh, you meant Native in Okay. Oh, right. Shit, you're Canadian. So, no, okay. In Canada, okay. First off, if you can like narrow it down to the specific nation or band, like that's always best. That's not always possible. So, the biggest like umbrella term is Indigenous. And then under Indigenous, there's like three main umbrella categories, which are the First Nations, the Inuit, and the Métis. And then you can get like more and more specific. And the more specific, the best, but when in doubt, Indigenous is totally fine to use. I'm not the boss of you or anything, but did you make a point of saying you wanted to book now in a timely fashion this stream? I did. I'm so sorry. And we are getting a little off track here. I felt it was really important to address what was coming up in this book. Always blame Baum. Yeah. Native American is the safest. Yeah, but in Canada, that's not the case. For a while, Aboriginal was used more, but it got kind of vetoed in favor of Indigenous. And when you are talking about Indigenous in terms of the people, you do want to capitalize that. If you're saying something like, this plant is indigenous to North America, then you don't capitalize. There you go. You always thought these characters were just made up, didn't know they were racist? I mean, made up characters can definitely be racist. Okay, let's jump into it. Isn't this fun? This is just a fun way to start. No, it is very important to address these things, though. So, all right. Now let's read a silly children's book that, has a bunch of, I don't know. Was the reason Aboriginal was vetoed because the association with Aboriginal with Australia? I don't think so. So what I heard, I'm not going to say that this is overall the case. So I used to go to a lot of conferences for basically for like writing consultants at the university level, because I was a writing consultant at a university. I'd go to like at least one conference a year for several years. Oh my god, sorry. And one of the conferences that we had, I think it was actually the one in Saskatoon, Shay. We had an amazing keynote speaker who actually like wrote an Indigenous style guide, which I own. It's amazing. And he was talking about how it was more that like Aboriginal kind of implies like outside of original, like a negative connotation, like not original. Anyways, Indigenous became the preferred term. Exactly, Shay. So that's why it fell out of favor. Hi, Ike. More Robin Hood and his meat. Next week we'll be getting back to Robin Hood and his meat and his shafts and all the butts. But for now, we are going to read Trouble with the Tottenhot. Bro, what are you doing, Baum? Hi, Banana. I feel like I just want to like change their name. Just call them the Tots or something. Yeah, that's why we did this whole disclaimer, Ike. I don't want to skip the whole chapter because there's like a bunch before they even get there. Should I just call them... What about if I call them the Totters? Totters? The Tater Tots? Use a different name? Yeah, I just feel too uncomfortable saying it. Sounds like a new worse slur. Potatoes hate this word. Well, if you guys have a suggestion for what's the contested term? Tottenhot. Okay. Wellwood, hello. What's Data's precious? Wellwood, thank you for using your Prime here. Oh my goodness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my goodness. Hello, how are you? Call them the Baumlings. I don't want to insult them like that. Okay. A day's journey from the Emerald City brought the little band of adventurers to the home of Jack Pumpkinhead, which was a house formed from the shell of an immense pumpkin. Jack had made it himself and was very proud of it. There was a door and several windows, and through the top was stuck a stovepipe that led from a small stove inside. The door was reached by a flight of 3 steps, and there was a good floor on which was arranged some furniture that was quite comfortable. It is certain that Jack Pumpkinhead might have had a much finer house to live in had he wanted it, for Ozma loved the stupid fellow who had been her earliest companion. But Jack preferred his pumpkin house, as it matched himself very well, and in this he was not so stupid after all. The body of this remarkable person was made of wood, branches of trees of various sizes having been used for the purpose. This wooden framework was covered by a red shirt with white spots in it, blue trousers, a yellow vest, a jacket of green and gold, and stout leather shoes. The neck was a sharpened stick on which the pumpkin head was set, and the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth were carved on the skin of the pumpkin, very like a child's jack-o'-lantern. The house of this interesting creation stood in the center of a vast pumpkin field, where the vines grew in profusion and bore pumpkins of extraordinary size, as well as those which were smaller. Some of the pumpkins, now ripening on the vines, were almost as large as Jack's house, and he told Dorothy he intended to add another pumpkin to his mansion. The travelers were cordially welcomed to this quaint domicile and invited to pass the night there, which they had planned to do. The Patchwork Girl was greatly interested in Jack and examined him admiringly. Like, who wants a house made out of basically your head? Also, does his mansion keep rotting and he has to keep replacing the wings of it? POUS's, pumpkins of unusual size. So poos. Poos? Okay. You are quite handsome, she said, but not as really beautiful as the Scarecrow. Like, why add that second part? Why add that second? Jack turned at this to examine the Scarecrow critically, and his old friend slyly winked one painted eye at him. There is no accounting for tastes, remarked the Pumpkinhead with a sigh. An old crow once told me I was very fascinating, but of course the bird might have been mistaken. Yet I've noticed that the crows usually avoid the Scarecrow, who's a very honest fellow in his way, but stuffed. I'm not stuffed, you will observe. My body is good solid hickory. I adore stuffing, said the Patchwork Girl. Yeah, get it, girl. Well, as for that, my head is stuffed with pumpkin seeds, declared Jack. I use them for brains. And when they are fresh, I am intellectual. Just now, I regret to say, my seeds are rattling a bit, so I must soon get another head. Oh, do you change your head? Asked Ojo. To be sure. Pumpkins are not permanent, more's the pity, and in time they spoil. That is why I grow such a great field of pumpkins, that I may select a new head whenever necessary. Who carves the faces on them? Inquired the boy. Oh, I do that myself. I lift off my old head, place it on a table before me, and use the face for a pattern to go by. Then how can he see what he's carving? Where does he see from? If he takes off his head and looks at it, what is he seeing with? Sometimes the faces I carve are better than others, more expressive and cheerful, you know, but I think they average pretty well. A mirror? Well, then why does he have to take his head off? He could just stand in front of the mirror. Before she had started on the journey, Dorothy had packed a knapsack with the things she might need, and this knapsack the Scarecrow carried strapped to his back. The little girl wore a plain gingham dress and a checked sunbonnet, as she knew they were best fitted for travel. Ojo also had brought along his basket, to which Ozma had added a bottle of square meal tablets and some fruit. But Jack Pumpkinhead grew a lot of things in his garden besides pumpkins, so he cooked for them a fine vegetable soup and gave Dorothy, Ojo, and Toto, the only ones who found it necessary to eat, a pumpkin pie and some green cheese. For beds, they must use the sweet dried grasses, which Jack had strewn along one side of the room. But that satisfied Dorothy and Ojo very well. Toto, of course, slept beside his little mistress. He gave them brain pie. He did. He did. Cold Phantom. Hello, hello, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. He also has eyes for nipples? What? Huh? The Scarecrow, Scraps, and the Pumpkinhead were tireless and had no need to sleep, so they sat up and talked together all night. But they stayed outside the house, under the bright stars, and talked in low tones so as not to disturb the sleepers. During the conversation, the Scarecrow explained their quest for a dark well and asked Jack's advice where to find it. Peanut Rhombus? Are you real? Thank you for the follow. He's a biblically accurate. Is that you? Hey, Wheel, is that you? Peanut Rhombus! Thank you for the sub. That's not you. You're lying. What? No. Who is it? You can't just ask a peanut if they're real. Well, it's because it's exciting. I heard you have me sliding across the screen. Who are you? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm thrilled you're here. Who are you? Is this someone's alt? Or is this like serendipity? Hello, hello. Heck yeah, we do the nut slide here. Either way, it's nutty. Either way, welcome in. Hello, hello. The Pumpkinhead considered the matter gravely. That is going to be a difficult task, said he, and if I were you, I'd take any ordinary well and enclose it so as to make it dark. I fear that wouldn't do, replied the Scarecrow. The well must be naturally dark, and the water must never have seen the light of day, for otherwise the magic charm might not work at all. How much water do you need? Asked Jack. A gill? How much is a gill? Why, well, a gill is a gill, of course, answered the Scarecrow, who did not wish to display his ignorance. I know, cried Scraps. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch... No, that's wrong, interrupted the Scarecrow. There are two kinds of gills, I think. One is a girl, and the other is... A gillyflower, said Jack. No, a measure. How big is a measure? Well, I'll ask Dorothy. So next morning they asked Dorothy, and she said, I don't know how much a gill is, but I brought along a gold flask that holds a pint. That's more than a gill, I'm sure, and the crooked magician may measure it to suit himself. But the thing that's bothering us most, Jack, is to find the well. If we hadn't get... Yeah, the slice of life... Yeah, that's why I wanted to, like, not skip this chapter entirely. Ah! Jack gazed around the landscape, for he was standing in the doorway of his house. "This is a flat country, so you won't find any dark wells here," said he. "You must go into the mountains, where rocks and caverns are." "And where's that?" asked Ojo. "In the Quadling country, which lies south of here," replied the Scarecrow. "I've known all along that we must go to the mountains." "So have I," said Dorothy. "But my goodness me, the Quadling country is full of dangers," declared Jack. "Well, I've never been there myself, but—" "I have," said the Scarecrow. "I've faced the dreadful hammerheads, which have no arms and butt you like a goat, and I've faced the fighting trees, which bend down their branches to pound and whip you, and had many other adventures there." "It's a wild country," remarked Dorothy soberly, "and if we go there, we're sure to have troubles of our own. But I guess we'll have to go if we want that gill of water from the dark well." "Or you could use the magic belt. You could use the magic belt, Dorothy." So they said goodbye to the Pumpkinhead and resumed their travels, heading now directly toward the South Country, where mountains and rocks and caverns and forests of great trees abounded. This part of the land of Oz, while it belonged to Ozma and owed her allegiance, was so wild and secluded that many queer peoples hid in its jungles and lived in their own way, without even a knowledge that they had a ruler in the Emerald City. If they were left alone, these creatures never troubled the inhabitants of the rest of Oz, but those who invaded their domains encountered many dangers from them. It was a 2 days' journey from Jack Pumpkinhead's house to the edge of the Quadling country, for neither Dorothy nor Ojo could walk very fast, and they often stopped by the roadside to rest. The first night they slept on the broad fields, among the buttercups and daisies, and the Scarecrow covered the children with a gauze blanket taken from his knapsack, so that they would not be chilled by the night air. Toward evening of the second day, they reached a sandy plain where walking was difficult, but some distance before them they saw a group of palm trees, with many curious black dots under them, so they trudged bravely on to reach that place by dark and spend the night under the shelter of the trees. The black dots grew larger as they advanced, and although the light was dim, Dorothy thought they looked like big kettles turned upside down. Just beyond this place, a jumble of huge, jagged rocks lay scattered, rising to the mountains behind them. Our travelers preferred to attempt to climb these rocks by daylight, and they realized that, for a time, this would be their last night on the plains. Twilight had fallen by the time they came to the trees, beneath which were the black, circular objects they had marked from a distance. Dozens of them were scattered around, and Dorothy bent near to one, which was about as tall as she was, to examine it more closely. As she did so, the top flew open, and out popped a small creature, rising its length into the air and then plumping down upon the ground just beside the little girl. Another and another popped out of the circular, pot-like dwelling. Well, from all the other black objects came popping more creatures, very like jumping jacks when their boxes are unhooked, until fully 100 stood gathered around our little group of travelers. Welcome and thank you for the follow, God and Goddess Energy. Welcome. By this time, Dorothy had discovered they were people, tiny and curiously formed, but still people. Their hair stood straight up like wires and was brilliant scarlet in color. Their bodies were bare except for skins fastened about their waists, and they wore bracelets on their ankles and wrists, and necklaces and great pendant earrings. Toto crouched beside his mistress and wailed as if he did not like these strange creatures a bit. Scraps began to mutter something about hoppity-poppity jumpity-dump, but no one paid any attention to her. Ojo kept close to the Scarecrow, and the Scarecrow kept close to Dorothy, but the little girl turned to the queer creatures and asked, "Who are you?" They answered this question all together in a sort of chanting chorus, the words being as follows. "We're the jolly Tottenhots, we do not like the day, but in the night 'tis our delight to gambol, skip, and play. We hate the sun, and from it run, the moon is cool and clear, so on this spot each Tottenhot waits for it to appear. We're every one chock full of fun, and full of mischief too, but if you're gay and with us play, we'll do no harm to you." "Well, glad to meet you," said the Scarecrow solemnly. "But you mustn't expect us to play with you all night, for we've traveled all day and some of us are tired." "And we never gamble," added the Patchwork Girl. "It's against the law." Is it? Is it against the law in Oz to gamble? These remarks were greeted with shouts of laughter by the impish creatures, and one seized the Scarecrow's arm and was astonished to find the straw man whirl around so easily. So the Tottenhot raised the Scarecrow high in the air and tossed him over the heads of the crowd. Someone caught him and tossed him back, and so with shouts of glee they continued throwing the Scarecrow here and there as if he had been a basketball. Presently another imp seized Scraps, began to throw her about in the same way. They found her a little heavier than the Scarecrow, but still light enough to be tossed like a sofa cushion, and they were enjoying the sport immensely, when Dorothy, angry and indignant at the treatment her friends were receiving, rushed among them and began slapping and pushing them until she had rescued the Scarecrow and the Patchwork Girl and held them close on either side of her. Perhaps she would not have accomplished this victory so easily had not Toto helped her, barking and snapping at the bare legs of the imps until they were glad to flee from his attack. As for Ojo, some of the creatures had attempted to toss him also, but finding his body too heavy, they threw him to the ground, and a row of the imps sat on him and held him from assisting Dorothy in her battle. Hi, NFS man. Hello. The little folks were much surprised at being attacked by the girl and the dog, and one or two who had been slapped hardest began to cry. Then suddenly they gave a shout all together and disappeared in a flash into their various houses, the tops of which closed with a series of pops that sounded like a bunch of firecrackers being exploded. The adventurers now found themselves alone, and Dorothy asked anxiously, "Is anybody hurt?" "Not me," answered the Scarecrow. "They've given my straw a good shaking up and taken all the lumps out of it. I am now in splendid condition, and am really obliged to them for their kind treatment." "I feel much the same way," said Scraps. "My cotton stuffing had sagged a good deal with the day's walking, and they've loosened it up until I feel as plump as a sausage. But the play was a little rough, and I've had quite enough of it when you interfered." "6 of them sat on me," said Ojo, "but as they are so little, they didn't hurt me much." Just then the roof of the house in front of them opened. And one stuck his head out very cautiously and looked at the strangers. "Can't you take a joke?" he asked reproachfully. "Haven't you any fun in you at all?" "If I had such a quality," replied the Scarecrow, "your people would have knocked it out of me. But I don't bear grudges. I forgive you." "So do I," asked Scraps. "That is, if you behave yourselves after this." "Well, it was just a little rough house, that's all," said the Tottenhot. The question is not if we will behave, but if you will behave. Well, we can't be shut up here all night, because this is our time to play. Nor do we care to come out and be chewed up by a savage beast or slapped by an angry girl. The slapping hurts like 60. Some of my folks are crying about it. So here's the proposition. You let us alone, and we'll let you alone. You began it, declared Dorothy. Well, you ended it, so we won't argue the matter. May we come out again? Or are you still cruel and slappy? Tell you what we'll do, said Dorothy. We're all tired and want to sleep until morning. If you'll let us into your house and stay there until daylight, you can play outside all you want to. Well, that's a bargain, he cried eagerly, and he gave a queer whistle that brought his people popping out of their houses on all sides. When the house before them was vacant, Dorothy and Ojo leaned over the hole and looked in, but could see nothing because it was so dark. But if this people slept there all day, the children thought they could sleep there at night, so Ojo lowered himself down and found it was not very deep. There's a soft cushion all over, said he. Come on in. Dorothy handed Toto to the boy and then climbed in herself. After her came Scraps and the Scarecrow, who did not wish to sleep, but preferred to keep out of the way of the mischievous folks. There seemed no furniture in the round den, but soft cushions were strewn about the floor, and these they found made very comfortable beds. They did not close the hole in the roof, but left it open to admit air. It also admitted the shouts and ceaseless laughter of the impish tots. Of the impish Tottenhots as they played outside, but Dorothy and Ojo, being weary from their journey, were soon fast asleep. Ah! Oh man. Alright, let's take a poll. Who wants to guess that, like, the Scarecrow and Scraps are gonna get it on before the end of this book? Because look at this. They are, like, having a moment. They're having a moment. She's like, oh, really? Yeah? You're so handsome, Scarecrow. Made for each other. Are they sitting against the cenotaph? I believe that's meant to be a door. Stuff for stuff. Oh my god. She does like a good stuffing. It looks like a fireplace. Well, that would be the last thing they would want to lean against, being made of straw and fabric. Toto kept an eye open, however, and uttered low, threatening growls whenever the racket made by the creatures outside became too boisterous, and the Scarecrow and the Patchwork Girl sat leaning against the wall and talked in whispers all night long. No one disturbed the travelers until daylight, when in popped the little man who owned the place and invited them to vacate his premises. There we go. End of chapter. She's got a case of hay fever? More pics. I'm not going to show the other pics. I'm not going to show them. No. No. Just assume that they are kind of offensive. Yeah. Cool. Now, the next chapter, apparently they are meeting something called a Yoop. And we have this picture of our people trudging off together. And this sign that says "Look out for Yoop." Wisconsin. Wait, isn't that Michigan? Isn't it Michigan that has the Yoopers? The Upper Peninsula? I think so. Toto's looking kind of starved? Yeah. Wait, question. So no one, like, ages in Fairyland. Does that mean that Ozma is a little girl forever? No, she aged. Wait, so people do age. So Dorothy will keep aging, right? Okay. Like staticky? How's that? Is that better? Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know, because it didn't sound staticky at all to me, so. Chapter 20. The Captive Yoop. As they were preparing to leave, Dorothy asked, "Can you tell us where there is a dark well?" "Never heard of such a thing," said the Tottenhot. "We live our lives in the dark, mostly, and sleep in the daytime, but we've never seen a dark well or anything like one." "Does anyone live on these mountains beyond here?" asked the Scarecrow. "Oh, lots of people. But you better not visit them." "We never go there," was the reply. "What are the people like?" Dorothy inquired. "Oh, can't say. We've been told to keep away from the mountain paths, and so we obey. This sandy desert is good enough for us, and we're not disturbed here," declared the Tottenhot. So they left the man snuggling down to sleep in his dusky dwelling and went out into the sunshine, taking the path that led toward the rocky places. They soon found it hard climbing, for the rocks were uneven and full of sharp points and edges, and now there was no path at all. Clambering here and there among the boulders, they kept steadily on, gradually rising higher and higher until finally they came to a great rift in a part of the mountain where the rock seemed to have split in two and left high walls on either side. "Well, suppose we go this way," suggested Dorothy. "It's much easier than walking to climb over the hills." "Well, how about that sign?" asked Ojo. "What sign?" she inquired. The Munchkin boy pointed to some words painted on the wall of rock before them, which Dorothy had not noticed. The words read, "Look out for Yoop." The girl eyed this sign a moment and then turned to the Scarecrow, asking, "Who is Yoop? Or what is Yoop?" The straw man shook his head. Then she looked at Toto, and the dog said, "Oof." "Only way to find out is to go on," said Scraps. This being quite true, they went on. Why is Yoop? Yeah, but nobody ever asks, how is Yoop? Poor Yoop. As they proceeded, the walls of rock on either side grew higher and higher. Presently, they came upon another sign which read, "Beware the captive Yoop." "Why, as for that," remarked Dorothy, if Yoop is a captive, there's no need to beware of him. Whatever Yoop happens to be, I'd much rather have him a captive than running around loose." "So would I," agreed the Scarecrow, with a nod of his painted head. "I beg your pardon, Ungood?" "Huh?" "Oh, like, I got it. Okay." With no context, that was just a wild thing to say. "Still," said Scraps reflectively, Yoop to hoop to loop to goop, who put noodles in the soup? We may beware, but we don't care, and dare go where we scare the yoop. Dear me, aren't you feeling a little queer just now? Dorothy asked the Patchwork Girl. Not queer, but crazy, said Ojo. When she says those things, I'm sure her brains get mixed somehow and work the wrong way. Well, I don't see why we're told to beware the Yoop, unless he's dangerous, observed the Scarecrow in a puzzled tone. Never mind, we'll find out all about him when we get to where he is, replied the little girl. The narrow canyon turned and twisted this way and that, and the rift was so small that they were able to touch both walls at the same time by stretching out their arms. Toto had run on ahead, frisking playfully, when suddenly he uttered a sharp bark of fear and came running back to them with his tail between his legs, as dogs do when they are frightened. Ah, said the Scarecrow, who was leading the way. We must be near Yoop. Just then, he rounded a sharp turn. No, just then, as he rounded a sharp turn, the straw man stopped so suddenly that all the others bumped into him. What is it? Asked Dorothy, standing on tiptoes to look over his shoulder. But then she saw what it was and cried, "Oh!" in a tone of astonishment. In one of the rock walls, that at their left, was hollowed a great cavern, in front of which was a row of thick iron bars, the tops and bottoms being firmly fixed in the solid rock. Over this cavern was a big sign, which Dorothy read with much curiosity, speaking the words aloud that all might know what they said. Okay, the writing is getting cut off in this version. I think I need to open it in like my browser. God damn it. Control find Yoop. Okay, I got it. Okay, sorry. Mr. Yoop. The largest untamed giant in captivity. Height, 21 feet. And yet he has but 2 feet. Weight, 1,640 pounds. But he waits all the time. Age, 400 years, and up, as they say in the department store advertisements. Temper, fierce and ferocious, except when asleep. Appetite, ravenous, prefers meat people and orange marmalade. Strangers approaching this cave do so at their own peril. P.S. Don't feed the giant yourself. Oh, and the first line apparently says Mr. Yoop, his cave. I missed that bit. Okay. And we have a picture. I met Max. Hello. Yeah, there is no comma in that. So maybe you can feed him other things, just don't offer yourself as food. Oops. Very well, said Ojo with a sigh. Let's go back. It's a long way back, declared Dorothy. So it is, remarked the Scarecrow, and it means a tedious climb over those sharp rocks if we can't use this passage. I think it will be best to run by the giant's cave as fast as we can go. Mr. Yoop seems to be asleep just now." But the giant wasn't asleep. He suddenly appeared at the front of his cavern, seized the iron bars in his great hairy hands and shook them until they rattled in their sockets. Yoop was so tall that our friends had to tip their heads way back to look into his face. And they noticed he was dressed all in pink velvet. Okay, Yoop, all right. With silver buttons and braid. The giant's boots were of pink leather and had tassels on them. And his hat was decorated with an enormous pink ostrich feather, carefully curled. Okay, slay.
"Yo-ho!"
he said in a deep bass voice.
"I smell dinner."
I think you're mistaken," replied the Scarecrow. There's no orange marmalade around here."
But I eat other things,"
asserted Mr. Yoop.
"That is, I eat them when I can get them. But this is a lonely place, and no good meat has passed by my cave for many years. So I'm hungry."
Haven't you eaten anything in many years?" asked Dorothy.
"Nothing, except 6 ants and a monkey. I thought the monkey would taste like meat people, but the flavor was different. I hope you will taste better, for you seem plump and tender."
"Oh, I'm not going to be eaten," said Dorothy.
"Why not?"
"I shall keep out of your way," she answered.
"How heartless,"
wailed the giant, shaking the bars again.
"Consider how many years it is since I've eaten a single plump little girl. They tell me meat is going up, but if I can manage to catch you, I'm sure it will soon be going down. And I'll catch you if I can."
With this, the giant pushed his big arms, which looked like tree trunks, except that tree trunks don't wear pink velvet, between the iron bars. But the arms were so long that they touched the opposite wall of the rock passage. Then he extended them as far as he could reach toward our travelers and found he could almost touch the Scarecrow, but not quite.
"Come a little nearer, please,"
begged the giant. I'm a scarecrow."
"A scarecrow? Oh, well, I don't care a straw for a scarecrow. Who is that bright-colored delicacy behind you?"
"Me?" asked Scraps. "I'm a patchwork girl, and I'm stuffed with cotton."
"Dear me," sighed the giant in disappointed tone. "That reduces my dinner from 4 to 2. And the dog. I'll save the dog for dessert."
Toto growled, keeping a good distance away. "Back up," said the Scarecrow to those behind him. "Let us go back a little way and talk this over." So they turned and went around the bend in the passage, where they were out of sight of the cave, and Mr. Yoop could not hear them. "My idea," began the Scarecrow when they had halted, "is to make a dash past the cave, going on a run." "He'd grab us," said Dorothy. "Well, we can't grab but one at a time, and I'll go first. As soon as he grabs me, the rest of you can slip past him, out of his reach, and he will soon let me go because I'm not fit to eat." They decided he could still tear you to pieces, though. They decided to try this plan, and Dorothy took Toto in her arms so as to protect him. She followed just after the Scarecrow. Then came Ojo with Scraps, the last of the 4. Their hearts beat a little faster than usual as they again approached the giant's cave, this time moving swiftly forward. It turned out about the way the Scarecrow had planned. Mr. Yoop was quite astonished to see them come flying toward him, and thrusting his arms between the bars, he seized the Scarecrow in a firm grip. And the next instant he realized, from the way the straw crunched between his fingers, that he had captured the non-eatable man. But during that instant of delay, Dorothy and Ojo had slipped by the giant and were out of reach. Uttering a howl of rage, the monster threw the Scarecrow after them with one hand and grabbed Scraps with the other. The poor Scarecrow went whirling through the air, and so cleverly was he aimed that he struck Ojo's back and sent the boy tumbling head over heels. And he tripped Dorothy and sent her also sprawling upon the ground. Toto flew out of the little girl's arms and landed some distance ahead, and all were so dazed that it was a moment before they could scramble to their feet again. When they did so, they turned to look toward the giant's cave, and at that moment, the ferocious Mr. Yoop threw the Patchwork Girl at them. Down went all three again, in a heap, with Scraps on top. The giant roared so terribly that for a time they were afraid he had broken loose. But he hadn't. So they sat in the road and looked at one another in a rather bewildered way, and then began to feel glad. "We did it!" exclaimed the Scarecrow with satisfaction. "And now we're free to go on our way."
"Mr. Yoop is very impolite," declared Scraps. "He jarred me terribly. It's lucky my stitches are so fine and strong, for otherwise such harsh treatment might rip me up the back."
"Well, allow me to apologize for the giant," said the Scarecrow, raising the Patchwork Girl to her feet and dusting her skirts with his stuffed hands. "Mr. Yoop is a perfect stranger to me, but I fear, from the rude manner in which he has acted, that he is no gentleman." Dorothy and Ojo laughed at this statement, and Toto barked as if he understood the joke, after which they all felt better and resumed the journey in high spirits. "Of course," said the little girl, when they had walked away along the passage, "it was lucky for us the giant was caged, for if he had happened to be loose, well, perhaps in that case he wouldn't be hungry anymore," said Ojo gravely. And we've got this. Oh dear. And we've got this, which I believe is an image for the next chapter. Because the next chapter is called Hip Hopper the Champion. Which I don't think is going to be about hip hop. But maybe about hopping. Scraps looks like a man. She looks just like the Scarecrow. She's got a skirt on, though. What do you mean? He's gonna hip the hoppiest hop. Well, let's jump in and see. Huh. I'm sorry for drinking so much. These books in particular make my throat a little... There's lots of voices. Chapter 21. Hip Hopper the Champion. They must have had good courage to climb all those rocks, for after getting out of the canyon, they encountered more rock hills to be surmounted.
Toto could jump from one rock to another quite easily, but the others had to creep and climb with care, so that after a whole day of such work, Dorothy and Ojo found themselves very tired. As they gazed upward at the great mass of tumbled rocks that covered the steep incline, Dorothy gave a little groan and said, "That's going to be a terrible hard climb, Scarecrow. I wish we could find the dark well without so much trouble." "Well, suppose," said Ojo, "you wait here and let me do the climbing, for it's on my account we're searching for the dark well. Then, if I don't find anything, I'll come back and join you."
Thank you for the haunts.
"No," replied the little girl, shaking her head positively. "We'll all go together, for that way we can help each other. If you went alone, something might happen to you, Ojo."
Do you think Dorothy and Ojo are, like, gonna get married? What do you think? I actually no, Dorothy and Ozma, right? I hope, for Ojo's sake, I hope not. So they began the climb and found it indeed difficult for a way. But presently, in creeping over the big crags, they found a path at their feet, which wound in and out among the masses of rock, and was quite smooth and easy to walk upon. As the path gradually ascended the mountain, although in a roundabout way, they decided to follow it. "This must be the road to the country of the Hoppers," said the Scarecrow.
"Who are the Hoppers?" asked Dorothy.
"Oh, some people Jack Pumpkinhead told me about," he replied.
"I didn't hear him,"
replied the girl. "No, you were asleep," explained the Scarecrow. "But he told Scraps and me that the Hoppers and the Horners live on this mountain.
Oh my goodness! Shady! Oh my goodness, thank you for the resub. Shay, thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Hi, Cooked Biscuit. Good to see you. Aw. Almost 2 years, that's crazy. Yeah, oh, that is getting close. Heck yeah. Thank you so much, Shay.
"He said in the mountain," declared Scraps. "But of course he meant on it."
"Didn't he say what the Hoppers and Horners were like?" inquired Dorothy.
I'm doing alright, Cooked Biscuit. How are you doing? How's your day going? To do some hopping of her own and some horning. Cloud cam? Sure. But like, there's not much going on. She had gone into Cloud's hut, but now she's giving her some space. Cloud said, get out of here.
"Didn't he say what the Hoppers and Horners were like?" inquired Dorothy.
No, he only said they were two separate nations, and that the Horners were the most important.
"Well, if we go to their country, we'll find out all about 'em," said the girl. "But I've never heard Ozma mention these people, so they can't be very important."
You're a little sick at the moment, Biscuit. Doing well, better on it. You know what? Sometimes we need to do that when we're sick. Yeah. I hope you feel better soon. Hopefully we can distract you for a little bit with some crazy story time. Sick Biscuit. Aw.
Is this mountain in the land of Oz?
asked Scraps. Of course it is, answered Dorothy. It's in the south country of the Quadlings. When one comes to the edge of Oz in any direction, there's nothing more to be seen at all. Once you could see sandy desert all around Oz, but now it's different, and no other people can see us any more than we can see them. Well, if the mountain is under Ozma's rule, why doesn't she know about the Hoppers and the Horners? Ojo asked. Why, it's a fairyland, explained Dorothy, and lots of queer people live in places so tucked away that those in the Emerald City never even hear of them. It's in the middle of the country. In the middle of the country, it's different. But when you get to around the edges, you're sure to run into strange little corners that surprise you. I know, for I've traveled in Oz a good deal, and so has the Scarecrow.
Yes, admitted the straw man. Well, I've been a considerable of a traveler in my time, and I like to explore strange places. I find I learn much more by traveling than by staying at home.
During this conversation, they had been walking up the steep pathway and now found themselves well up on the mountain. They could see nothing around them, for the rocks beside their path were higher than their heads. Nor could they see far in front of them, because the path was so crooked. But suddenly they stopped, because the path ended, and there was no place to go. Ahead was a big rock lying against the side of the mountain, and this blocked the way completely.
Well, there wouldn't be a path, though, if it didn't go somewhere, said the Scarecrow, wrinkling his forehead in deep thought.
This is somewhere, isn't it?
asked the Patchwork Girl, laughing at the bewildered looks of the others.
The path is blocked, the way is... The path is locked, the way is blocked, yet here we've innocently flocked. And now we're here, it's rather queer. There's no front door that can be knocked.
Oh, please don't, Scraps, said Ojo. You make me nervous. Well, said Dorothy, I'm glad of a little rest. That's a dreadful steep path. As she spoke, she leaned against the edge of the big rock that stood in their way. To her surprise, it slowly swung backward and showed behind it a dark hole that looked like the mouth of a tunnel. Why, here's where the path goes to, she exclaimed.
So it is, answered the Scarecrow. The question is, do we want to go where the path does?
Well, it's underground, right inside the mountain, said Ojo, peering into the dark hole. Perhaps there's a well there, and well, if there is, it's sure to be a dark one. Why, that's true enough, cried Dorothy with eagerness. Let's go in, Scarecrow, 'cause if others have gone, we're pretty safe to go too.
Girl, that's terrible logic.
What is that? No, that's not true. Toto looked in and barked, but he did not venture to enter until the Scarecrow had bravely gone first. Scraps followed closely after the straw man, and then Ojo and Dorothy timidly stepped into the tunnel. As soon as all of them had passed the big rock, it slowly turned and filled up the opening again. But now they were no longer in the dark, for a soft, rosy light enabled them to see around them quite distinctly. It was only a passage, wide enough for two of them to walk abreast, with Toto in between them, and it had a high arched roof. They could not see where the light, which flooded the place so pleasantly, came from, for there were no lamps anywhere visible. The passage ran straight for a little way, and then made a bend to the right, and another sharp turn to the left, after which it went straight again. But there were no side passages, so they could not lose their way. After proceeding some distance, Toto, who had gone on ahead, began to bark loudly. They ran around a bend to see what was the matter, and found a man sitting on the floor of the passage and leaning his back against the wall. He had probably been asleep before Toto's barks aroused him, for he was now rubbing his eyes and staring at the little dog with all his might. There was something about this man that Toto objected to, and when he slowly rose to his foot, they saw what it was. He had but one leg, set just below the middle of his round, fat body, but it was a stout leg, and had a broad, flat foot at the bottom of it, on which the man seemed to stand very well. He had never had but this one leg, which looked something like a pedestal, and when Toto ran up and made a grab at the man's ankle, he hopped first one way and then another in a very active manner, looking so frightened that Scraps laughed aloud.
It's a rude thing to laugh at.
Yeah, stout and lusty leg.
This man is terrified, and she's like, let's just laugh at him.
Scraps is spending too much time with Dorothy. It's not good for her. Toto was usually a well-behaved dog, but this time he was angry and snapped at the man's leg again and again. This filled the poor fellow with fear, and in hopping out of Toto's reach, he suddenly lost his balance and tumbled heel over head upon the floor. When he sat up, he kicked Toto on the nose and made the dog howl angrily, but Dorothy now ran forward and caught Toto's collar, holding him back.
"Do you surrender?"
she asked the man. What the hell? They go in. This might be his home. She lets her dog attack him, while her group stands by laughing at him. She's like the worst kind of dog owner, you know? Jesus.
"Do you surrender?"
she asked the man.
Who, me?
Asked the Hopper.
"Yes, you."
Said the little girl.
Am I captured?
He inquired. Of course. My dog has captured you, she said.
Well, replied the man, if I'm captured, I must surrender, for it's the proper thing to do. Well, I like to do everything proper, for it saves one a lot of trouble.
"It does indeed," said Dorothy. "Please, tell us who you are."
Well, I'm Hip Hopper. Hip Hopper the champion.
"Champion what?"
she asked in surprise.
Champion wrestler. A very strong man, and that ferocious animal which you are so kindly holding is the first living creature that has ever conquered me.
"And you are a Hopper?" she continued.
Yes, my people live in a great city not far from here. Would you like to visit it?
Well, I'm not sure, she said with hesitation. Have you any dark wells in your city?
Well, I think not. We have wells, you know, but they're all well lighted, and a well-lighted well cannot well be a dark well. But there may be a thing as a very dark well in the Horner country, which is a black spot on the face of the earth.
Where's the Horner country? Ojo inquired.
The other side of the mountains. There's a fence between the Hopper country and the Horner country, and a gate in the fence, but you can't pass through it just now because we are at war with the Horners.
Well, that's too bad, said the Scarecrow.
What seems to be the trouble? Why, one of them made a very insulting remark about my people. He said we were lacking in understanding because we had only one leg to a person. Well, I can't see that legs have anything to do with understanding things. The Horners each have 2 legs, just as you have. Well, that's 1 leg too many, it seems to me.
No, declared Dorothy. It's just the right number.
God damn it, Dorothy. Well, you don't need them, answered the Hopper, obstinately. You've only 1 head, and 1 body, and 1 nose and mouth. 2 legs are quite unnecessary, and they spoil one's shape.
But how can you walk with only 1 leg? Asked Ojo. little brat. Behave, okay?
Walk? Who wants to walk? Exclaimed the man. Walking is a terribly awkward way to travel. I hop, and so do all my people. It's so much more graceful and agreeable than walking. Well, I don't agree with you, said the Scarecrow. But tell me, is there any way to get to the Horner country without going through the city of the Hoppers? Yes, there's another path from the rocky lowlands, outside the mountain, that leads straight to the entrance of the Horner country. But it's a long way around, so you'd better come with me. Perhaps they will allow you to go through the gate. But we expect to conquer them this afternoon, if we get time. And then you may go and come as you please. They thought it best to take the Hopper's advice, and asked him to lead the way. This he did in a series of hops, and he moved so swiftly in this strange manner that those with 2 legs had to run to keep up with him.
Okay, and here is a picture. Got kind of like Tweedledee and Tweedledum vibes. Alright. You know you're very difficult. Did you know that? Oh, are you giving me kisses? You think you can win me over by giving me cute little kisses? Is that what you think? Is that what you think? That's crazy. That's crazy. You need to be less of a nuisance. You need to be polite. Yeah? Can you do that? Can you be a little more polite? Be a little more polite. What do you think? Yeah. I can't hold you the whole time. What about if I get your couch? Do you want to sit in your couch? Do you want to sit on my desk in your couch? Why don't we do that? Why don't we give Cloud a break? Look, Cloud is happily eating now that she doesn't have her little sister bugging her. Come here. Your couch is right over here. Let's give Cloud a break, yeah? Here we go. Here's your couch. Alright. Yeah. Here we are. Come here. Come here. There we go. There we go. Yeah, hang out in there. Yeah. Just hang out there. There we go. There we go. Okay. Tuck Nim. Do you know how much Nim weighs? No, I was thinking tomorrow I'm gonna weigh them each. So, then I'll know. Get cozy. Come here. Come here, little pig. Get cozy. There you go. All right. Let's read another chapter, yeah? Okay. Hi, sweetie. You good? You all right? All right. I don't care if you're angry. You've been very naughty. Nimbus, Can you hear her chattering at me? Yeah, because holding her hurt my back. You are a dumpy little dumpling, you know that? Here, let me get you. Hold on. Here we go. Here's a cookie. There you go. You got it? Okay. Oh my god. Nimbus. Okay. Alright. Chapter 22. The Joking Horners. It was not long before they left the passage and came to a great cave, so high that it must have reached nearly to the top of the mountain within which it lay. It was a magnificent cave, illumined by the soft invisible light, so that everything in it could be plainly seen. The walls were of polished marble, white with veins of delicate colors running through it, and the roof was arched and carved in designs both fantastic and beautiful. Built beneath this vast dome was a pretty village. Not very large, for there seemed not more than 50 houses altogether, and the dwellings were of marble and artistically designed. No grass nor flowers nor trees grew in this cave, so the yards surrounding the houses were smooth and bare, and had low walls around them to mark their boundaries. In the streets and the yards of the houses were many people, all having one leg growing below their bodies and all hopping here and there whenever they moved. Even the children stood firmly upon their single legs and never lost balance. Where'd your cookie go? Nim, did you eat the whole thing? No, here's some. There it is. Here you go. Here you go. Look.
All hail, champion!
Cried a man in the first group of hoppers they met.
Whom have you captured?
So I'm giving them bouncy voices. I don't know if that's just really annoying. Oh my god, she put her little hand in my hand. She put my hand in her hand in my hand. Nim, your cookie is underneath your neck fat.
No one, replied the champion in a gloomy voice. These strangers have captured me. Then, said another, we will rescue you and capture them, for we are greater in number. No, answered the champion, I can't allow it. I've surrendered, and it isn't polite to capture those you've surrendered to.
Oh, never mind that, said Dorothy. We will give you your liberty and set you free.
Really? Asked the champion in joyous tones.
Yes, said the little girl. Your people may need you to help conquer the Horners.
At this, all the hoppers looked downcast and sad. Several more had joined the group by this time, and quite a crowd of curious men, women, and children surrounded the strangers.
This war with our neighbors is a terrible thing, remarked one of the women. Someone is almost sure to get hurt.
Why do you say that, madam? Inquired the Scarecrow.
Because the horns of our enemies are sharp, and in battle they will try to stick those horns into our warriors, she replied. How many horns do the Horners have? Asked Dorothy. Each has one horn in the center of his forehead, was the answer.
Oh, then they're unicorns, declared the Scarecrow.
No, they're Horners. We never go to war with them if we can help it, on account of their dangerous horns. But this insult was so great and so unprovoked that our brave men decided to fight in order to be revenged, said the women. said the woman. What weapons do you fight with? The Scarecrow asked. Oh, we have no weapons, explained the champion. Whenever we fight the Horners, our plan is to push them back, for our arms are longer than theirs.
Then you are better armed, said Scraps.
Yes, but they have those terrible horns, and unless we are careful, they prick us with the points, returned the champion with a shudder. That makes a war with them dangerous, and a dangerous war cannot be a pleasant one. Ma'am? Did you eat all your cookie? Or is it lost somewhere in your neck fat? Oh, here's a little bit more. It was lost in your neck fat. Well, I see very clearly, remarked the Scarecrow, that you are going to have trouble in conquering those Horners, unless we help you.
Oh,
cried the Hoppers in a chorus. Can you help us? Please do. We will be greatly obliged. It would please us very much. And by these exclamations, the Scarecrow knew that his speech had met with favor. Nimbus, you're being very rude. Well, how far is it to the Horner country? He asked. Why, it's just the other side of the fence, they answered, and the champion nodded. Come with me, please, and I'll show you the Horners. So they followed the champion and several others through the streets. And just beyond the village came to a very high picket fence, built all of marble, which seemed to divide the great cave into two equal parts. But the part inhabited by the Horners was in no way as grand in appearance as that of the Hoppers. Instead of being marble, the walls and roof were of dull gray rock, and the square houses were plainly made of the same material. But in extent, the city was much larger than that of the Hoppers, and the streets were thronged with numerous people who busied themselves in various ways. Looking through the open pickets of the fence, our friends watched the Horners, who did not know that they were being watched by the strangers, and found them very unusual in appearance. They were little folks in size and had bodies round as balls and short legs and arms. Their heads were round too, and they had long pointed ears and a horn set in the center of the forehead. The horn did not seem very terrible, for they were not more than 6 inches long, but they were ivory white and sharp-pointed, and no wonder the Hoppers feared them. The skins of the Horners were light brown, but they wore snow-white robes and were barefooted. Dorothy thought the most striking thing about them was their hair, which grew in 3 distinct colors on each and every head: red, yellow, and green. The red was at the bottom and sometimes hung over their eyes. Then came a broad circle of yellow, and the green was at the top and formed a brush-shaped topknot. None of the Horners was yet aware of the presence of strangers, who watched the little brown people for a time and then went to the big gate in the center of the dividing fence. It was locked on both sides, and over the latch was a sign reading, "War is declared."
Isn't that right, Nim? Isn't that right? Are you comfy now?
Yeah. Are you comfy now? Look at her face. Oh dear. Oh dear. What's going on? There's a little bit of cookie left if you want it. Yeah. Hi, Johnny. Your little gormless face.
Can't we go through?
Asked Dorothy. Not now, answered the champion. "I think," said the Scarecrow,
that if I could talk with these horners, they would apologize to you, and then there would be no need to fight. Can't you talk from this side? Asked the champion. Not so well, replied the Scarecrow. Do you suppose you could throw me over that fence? Well, it is high, but I'm very light. We can try it, said the Hopper. I am perhaps the strongest man in my country, so I'll undertake to do the throwing. But I won't promise you will land on your feet. Oh, no matter about that, returned the Scarecrow. Just toss me over and I'll be satisfied. So the champion picked up the Scarecrow and balanced him a moment to see how much he weighed, and then, with all his strength, tossed him high in the air. Now, perhaps if the Scarecrow had been a trifle heavier, he would have been easier to throw and would have gone a greater distance. But as it was, instead of going over the fence, he landed just on top of it, and one of the sharp pickets caught him in the middle of his back and held him fast prisoner. Had he been face downward, the Scarecrow might have managed to free himself, but lying on his back on the picket, his hands waved in the air of the Horner country, while his feet kicked in the air of the Hopper country. So there he was.
Are you hurt?
Called the Patchwork Girl anxiously.
Course not, said Dorothy. But if he wiggles that way, he may tear his clothes. How can we get him down, Mr. Champion?
The champion shook his head. I don't know, he confessed. If we could scare horners as well as he does crows, it might be a good idea to leave him there. Oh, if he could scare horners.
Please don't wander off.
Well, this is terrible, said Ojo, almost ready to cry. Well, I suppose it's because I'm Ojo the Unlucky that everyone who tries to help me gets into trouble.
You are lucky to have anyone help you.
Why did that feel like not a nice thing to say? It's nice on the surface, but it just feels nasty, declared Dorothy.
But don't worry, we'll rescue the Scarecrow somehow. I know how, announced Scraps. Here, Mr. Champion, just throw me up to the Scarecrow. I'm nearly as light as he is, and when I'm on top of the fence, I'll pull our friend off the picket and toss him down to you.
All right, said the champion, and he picked up the Patchwork Girl and threw her in the same manner he had the Scarecrow. He must have used more strength this time, however, for Scraps sailed far over the top of the fence and, without being able to grab the Scarecrow at all, tumbled to the ground in the Horner country, where her stuffed body knocked over 2 men and a woman and made a crowd that had collected there run like rabbits to get away from her. Oh my god. Sorry. Got a jump scare of an illustration. First, let me show you this one, which is not the one that made me react strongly. But just is hilarious. It's just hilarious. He's like, I saw up her skirt. Okay, do you guys want a jump scare? Are you ready for this jump scare? I don't know that you are. I don't know that you are. This illustrator wants to see us all have nightmares. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Nimbus.
Hi, electric bees. Yeah, look at this, man. So the hair, the yellow hair is not their horns. If you look closely, they each have like a little white horn on their forehead. Like, let's see if I can.
Do you see the little white horn on his forehead? Was this illustrator in St. Johnny? I think he was. I think so. Yeah. Oh, she's doing the little rodent cleaning thing. It's so cute. You're so cute. You look like a fat squirrel. Okay. I need an immediate refund of every bit I've ever sent you so I can hire a therapist. Oh, Lord. Okay. Seeing the next moment that she was harmless, the people slowly returned and gathered around the Patchwork Girl, regarding her with astonishment. One of them wore a jeweled star in his hair, just above his horn, and this seemed to be a person of importance. He spoke for the rest of his people, who treated him with great respect. "Who are you, unknown being?" he asked. "Scraps," she said, rising to her feet, and patting her cotton wadding smooth where it had bunched up. "And where did you come from?" he continued. "Over the fence." Oh, wait, sorry. "Over the fence? Don't be silly. There's no other place I could have come from," she replied. He looked at her thoughtfully. "You are not a hopper," said he, "for you have but 2 legs. They're not very well shaped, but they are 2 in number. And that strange creature on top of the fence." She's licking my hand. You licking my hand? Don't eat my thumb. Don't do that. Don't eat my thumb. Nim, you need to stay in your couch. Thank you for the kisses. Thank you for the kisses. But, like, I don't like how your whole dewlap is hanging over the edge of your couch. And I need to put you, like, proper. You're, like, precarious. There. Sit. Yeah, there you go. And that strange creature on top of the fence, why doesn't he stop kicking? Must be your brother, or father, or son, for he also has 2 legs. You must have been to visit the wise donkey, said Scraps, laughing so merrily that the crowd smiled with her in sympathy. But that reminds me, Captain, or King, I am Chief of the Horners, and my name is Jack. No, Baum. No. Frank. You piece of shit. Of course, little Jack Horner. Little Jack Horner sat in a corner. It's a Mother Goose nursery rhyme. Can this dude, like, not stop ripping off other people? Is he the one that sticks his thumb in a pie? Stuck in his thumb and pulled out a plum? Little Jack Horner sat in the corner eating a Christmas pie. He put in his thumb and pulled out a plum and said, "What a good boy am I." L fucking Baum. Okay. Alright. Okay.
Of course, little Jack Horner. I might have known it. But the reason I volplaned over the fence was so I could have a talk with you about the hoppers.
Volplaned? Volplaned? Volplaned. I mean, vol obviously means fly. I've just never seen that word before. A volplane is a controlled dive or downward flight at a steep angle, especially by an airplane with the engine shut off. That's hilarious. Okay. What about the hoppers? Asked the chief, frowning.
You've insulted them, and you'd better beg their pardon, said Scraps. If you don't, they'll probably hop over here and conquer you.
Well, we're not afraid, as long as the gate is locked, declared the chief. And we didn't insult them at all. One of us made a joke that the stupid hoppers couldn't see. The chief smiled as he said this, and the smile made his face look quite jolly.
What was the joke?
Asked Scraps. Well, Horner said they have less understanding than we, because they've only got one leg. You see the point, don't you? If you stand on your legs, and your legs are under you, then your legs are your understanding. Oh my, but that's a fine joke. When the stupid hoppers couldn't see it. Oh, they couldn't see that with only one leg. They have less understanding than we, who have two legs. The chief wiped the tears of laughter from his eyes with the bottom hem of his white robes. And all the other Horners laughed their eyes on their robes, for they had laughed just as heartily as their chief at the absurd joke. Yeah, more ableism.
Then, said Scraps, their understanding of the understanding you meant led to the misunderstanding.
Well, exactly. And there's no need for us to apologize, returned the chief.
No need for an apology, perhaps, but much need for an explanation, said Scraps decidedly. You don't want war, do you?
Not if we can help it, admitted Jack Horner. The question is, who's going to explain the joke to the Horners? Wait, isn't he a Horner? Is that meant to say the hoppers? I feel like that should say the hoppers. You know it spoils any joke to be obliged to explain it, and this is the best joke I ever heard.
Who made the joke?
Asked Scraps. Dixie Horner. He's working in the mines just now, but he'll be home before long. Suppose we wait and talk with him about it? Maybe he'll be willing to explain his joke to the hoppers.
All right,
said Scraps.
I'll wait if Dixie isn't too long.
No, he's short. He's shorter than I am. Say, that's a better joke than Dixie's. Oh, he won't be too long because he's short. The other Horners who were standing by roared with laughter and seemed to like their chief's joke as much as he did. Scraps thought it was odd that they could be so easily amused, but decided there could be little harm in people who laughed so merrily. End of chapter. I feel the same way, Nim. I feel the same way. Yeah. I'm angry about it too. I'm angry about it too. It's not good writing, is it? No. It's not good writing. Yeah. It's pretty bad. I agree. I agree. Yeah. Thank you for the kisses. I feel like we need to read one more chapter just to like hopefully like wrap up this horrible event. Chapter 23. Peace is declared. Like, I'm not going to want to come back to this book if we have to come back to this scenario again. Well, come with me to my dwelling. I'll introduce you to my daughters, said the chief. Excuse me? Did you just manhandle my hand out of the way? We're bringing them up according to a book of rules that was written by one of our leading old bachelors, and everyone says they're a remarkable lot of girls. So Scraps accompanied him along the street to a house that seemed, on the outside, exceptionally grimy and dingy. The streets of the city were not paved, nor had any attempt been made to beautify the houses or their surroundings, and having noticed this condition, Scraps was astonished when the chief ushered her into his house. I'm sorry, I have to show you the picture on the first page. Fucking look at the scarecrow. Did he die on the fence? What is happening? He looked... The entire series is a horrible event. He ended it. He's done. He's like, that's enough. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh shit. I think he speaks for all of us when he says, yeah. Here was nothing grimy or faded indeed. On the contrary, the room was of dazzling brilliance and beauty, for it was lined throughout with an exquisite metal that resembled translucent frosted silver. The surface of this metal was highly ornamented in raised designs representing men, animals, flowers, and trees, and from the metal itself was radiated the soft light which flooded the room. All the furniture was made of the same glorious metal, and Scraps asked what it was. Get ready, guys. Not mithril. That's radium, answered the chief. That's radium. We Horners spend all our time digging radium from the mines under this mountain, and we use it to decorate our homes and make them pretty and cozy. It's a medicine, too, and no one can ever be sick who lives near radium. I fucking can't with these books. I keep thinking that L. Frank Baum has twisted his last turn. Oh my god. Have you plenty of it? Asked the Patchwork Girl. Oh, more than we can use. All the houses in the city are decorated with it, just the same as mine is.
Well, why don't you use it on your streets then? And the outside of your houses? To make them as pretty as they are within, she inquired.
Well, outside?
Who cares for outside of anything? Asked the chief.
We Horners don't live on the outside of our houses. We live inside. Many people are like those stupid hoppers who love to make an outside show. I suppose you strangers thought their city more beautiful than ours, because you judge from appearances and they have handsome marble houses and marble streets. But if you entered one of their stiff dwellings, you would find it bare and uncomfortable, as all their show is on the outside. They have an idea that what is not seen by others is not important, but with us, the rooms we live in are our chief delight and care. We pay no attention to the outside show.
It seems to me, said Scraps, musingly, it would be better to make it all pretty, inside and out.
Seems? Why, you're all seams, my girl, said the chief, and then he laughed heartily at his latest joke, and a chorus of small voices echoed the chorus with Scraps turned around and found a row of girls seated in radium chairs ranged along one wall of the room. There were 19 of them by actual count, and they were of all sizes, from a tiny child to one almost a grown woman. All were neatly dressed in spotless white robes and had brown skins, horns on their forehead, and 3 colored hair. These, said my chief. I mean, not my chief. Hold on. These, said the chief, are my sweet daughters. My dears, I introduce you to Miss Scraps Patchwork, a lady who is traveling in foreign parts to increase her store of wisdom. The 19 Horner girls all arose and made a polite curtsy, after which they resumed their seats and rearranged their robes properly.
Why do they sit so still and all in a row?
Asked Scraps. Well, because it is ladylike and proper, replied the chief.
But some are just children, poor things. Don't they ever run around and play and laugh and have a good time and have their jawbones liquefy and melt off their heads from all the radium they're licking?
No, indeed, said the chief. That would be improper in young ladies, as well as in those who will sometime become young ladies. My daughter's being brought up according to the rules and regulations laid down by a leading bachelor who's given the subject much study and is himself a man of taste and culture. Politeness is his great hobby, and he claims that if a child is allowed to do an impolite thing, one cannot expect the grown person to do anything better. You are such a brat right now. If I put you back, are you going to climb on your sister? Are you going to do it? Or are you going to behave? What do you think? Nim? Are you going to be a well-behaved young lady? What do you think? Are you going to be a well-behaved young lady? What do you think? Okay, I'm going to put you back. We're going to give it a try. Give it a try. Okay, I got you. I got you. Okay. A tribble, kind of. Yeah. Hi, Rex. They kind of are tribbles, yeah. Give it 3 seconds. So far, okay. Okay, get my earbud in. Nim. Okay.
Is it impolite to romp and shout and be jolly? Asked Scraps.
Well, sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't, replied the Horner, after considering the question. By curbing such inclinations in my daughters, we keep on the safe side. Once in a while I make a good joke, as you've heard, and then I permit my daughters to laugh, decorously. But they're never allowed to make a joke themselves. What in the hell? Well, that's crazy bullshit.
That old bachelor who made the rules ought to be skinned alive,
Declared Scraps. Okay, Scraps is awesome. And would have said more on the subject had not the door opened to admit a little Horner man whom the chief introduced as Dixie. "What's up, Chief?" said Dixie, winking 19 times at the 19 girls, who demurely cast down their eyes because their father was looking. The chief told the man that his joke had not been understood by the dull hoppers, who had become so angry that they had declared war. So the only way to avoid a terrible battle was to explain the joke so they could understand it. Angel Drifter. "Well, all right," replied Dixie, who seemed a good-natured man. "I'll go at once to the fence and explain. Well, I don't want any war with the hoppers. For wars between nations always cause hard feelings." That's a nice way of putting it. Nice understatement there. So the chief and Dixie and Scraps left the house and went back to the marble picket fence. The scarecrow was still stuck on the top of his picket, but had now ceased to struggle. He's just given up. On the other side of the fence were Dorothy and Ojo, looking between the pickets. And there also were the champion and many other hoppers. Dixie went close to the fence and said, "Well, my good hoppers, I wish to explain that what I said about you was a joke. You have but one leg each, and we have 2 legs each. Our legs are under us, whether 1 or 2, and we stand on them. So, when I said you had less understanding than we, I did not mean that you had less understanding, you understand, but that you had less stand-undering, so to speak. Do you understand that?" The hoppers thought it over carefully. Then one said, "That is clear enough, but where does the joke come in?" Dorothy laughed, for she couldn't help it, although all the others were solemn enough. Rex, thank you for the sub over on YouTube. Thank you, thank you. It's like Fidge explaining barcolepsy. This is painful. Yeah.
I'll tell you where the joke comes in,
she said, and took the hoppers away to a distance where the Horners could not hear her.
You know, she then explained, those neighbors of yours are not very bright, poor things. And what they think is a joke isn't a joke at all. It's true, don't you see?
True that we have less understanding? Asked the champion.
Yes, it's true, because you don't understand such a poor joke. If you did, you'd be no wiser than they are.
Ah, yes, of course, they answered, looking very wise. You're German, Chilldrifter? Nice. Hello, hello.
So I'll tell you what to do, continued Dorothy. Laugh at their poor joke and tell them it's pretty good for a Horner. Then they won't dare say you have less understanding, because you understand as much as they do.
The hoppers looked at one another questioningly and blinked their eyes and tried to think what it all meant, but they couldn't figure it out.
What do you think, champion?
Asked one of them. Well, I think it is dangerous to think of this thing any more than we can help, he replied. Let us do as this girl says and laugh with the Horners, so as to make them believe we see the joke. Then there will be peace again, and no need to fight." They readily agreed to this and returned to the fence, laughing as loud and as hard as they could, although they didn't feel like laughing a bit. The Horners were much surprised. "That's a fine joke for a Horner, and we are much pleased with it," said the champion, speaking between the pickets. "But please, don't do it again." "Well, I won't," promised Dixie. "If I think of another such joke, I'll try to forget it." "Good!" cried the chief Horner. "The war is over, and peace is declared." Buddha, you're going to bed. Good night, Buddha. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks so much for hanging out. Good night, good night. And thanks for hanging out on both Twitch and YouTube. I appreciate it. There was much joyful shouting on both sides of the fence, and the gate was unlocked and thrown wide open so that Scraps was able to rejoin her friends. Of course, Buddha.
What about the Scarecrow?
Oh, wait. Sorry, that's Scraps speaking.
What about the Scarecrow?
She asked Dorothy.
Well, we must get him down, somehow or other,
Was the reply.
Well, perhaps the Horners can find a way,
Suggested Ojo. So they all went through the gate, and Dorothy asked the Chief Horner how they could get the Scarecrow off the fence. The Chief didn't know how, but Dixie said, "Well, ladder's the thing."
Have you one?
Asked Dorothy. "To be sure. We use ladders in our mines," said he. Then he ran away to get the ladder, and while he was gone, the Horners gathered around and welcomed the strangers to their country, for through them a great war had been avoided. In a little while, Dixie came back with a tall ladder which he placed against the fence. Ojo at once climbed to the top of the ladder, and Dorothy went about halfway up, and Scraps stood at the foot of it. Toto ran around it and barked. Then Ojo pulled the Scarecrow away from the picket and passed him down to Dorothy, who in turn lowered him to the Patchwork Girl. As soon as he was on his feet and standing on solid ground, the Scarecrow said, "Much obliged. I feel much better. I'm not stuck on that picket anymore." The Horners began to laugh, thinking that this was a joke, but the Scarecrow shook himself and patted his straw a little and said to Dorothy, "Is there much of a hole in my back?" The little girl examined him carefully.
There's quite a hole, she said, but I've got a needle and thread in the knapsack, and I'll sew you up again.
"Oh, do so," he begged earnestly, and again the Horners laughed, to the Scarecrow's great annoyance. While Dorothy was sewing up the hole in the straw man's back, Scraps examined the other parts of him.
One of his legs is ripped too,
she exclaimed. "Oh ho!" cried little Dixie. "Well, that's bad. Give him the needle and thread and let him mend his ways." "Bah! Ha ha!" laughed the Chief, and the other Horners at once roared with laughter. "What's funny?" inquired the Scarecrow sternly. "Don't you see?" asked Dixie, who had laughed even harder than the others. "That's a joke. It's by odds the best joke I ever made. You walk with your legs, and so that's the way you walk, and your legs are the ways. See? So when you mend your legs, you mend your ways." I had no idea I could make such a fine joke. "Just wonderful," echoed the Chief. "How do you manage to do it, Dixie?" "Well, I don't know," said Dixie modestly. "Perhaps it's the radium, but I rather think it's my splendid intellect." Okay, that was a real laugh from me. That line is so good. But that line isn't, like, meant to be a joke. Holy hell! Oh shit, that's good. It's just the radiation poisoning. It's fine. Oh my god. What a good quote.
Well, if you don't quit it, the Scarecrow told him, there'll be a worse war than the one you've escaped from. Ojo had been deep in thought, and now he asked the chief, "Is there a dark well in any part of your country?" "A dark well? None that I've ever heard of," was the answer. "Oh yes," said Dixie, who overheard the boy's question. "There's a very dark well down in my radium mine."
Don't go to the radium mine. Oh, yeah, the radium girls are so fucking tragic.
Their jawbones just like dissolved.
It's so sad. Yeah, the dangers became evident in the early 1920s, and this was written in 1913. So it would have been when like radium was being used a bunch and like before they knew how dangerous it was. Yeah. He would live to see people realize how dangerous radium is. Thank you for your soul? What? Chill Drifter. I'm not giving up my soul. That's not... No.
Is there any water in it?
Ojo eagerly asked.
I can't say.
I've never looked to see, but we can find out.
So as soon as the Scarecrow was mended, they decided to go with Dixie to the mine.
Are you okay, Chill Drifter? Is everything good? You doing all right? You doing all right? Okay. Bye, Chill Drifter. Bye, bye, bye.
When Dorothy had patted the straw man into shape, again he declared he felt as good as new and equal to further adventures. "Still," said he, "I prefer not to do picket duty again. High life doesn't seem to agree with my constitution." And then they hurried away to escape the laughter of the Horners, who thought this was another joke.
Oh! Oh! Ah! Oh! Ah! Oh no! This one's even worse. Oh, Lord. Christ. What the fuck is wrong with this illustrator? Like, this is the stuff of nightmares. Like, just terrifying. Oh my god. Oh no. Are they okay? None of them are okay. Yeah, the Wheelers are fine compared to this. Okay. Let me see. There's 5 chapters left, So we might actually be able to finish this on Thursday and then be done with it. That could be cool to be finished on earlier. Right? Yeah. That could be cool. You fell asleep, Sean. You missed some horrible stuff. The arc careens between indecipherably drunk to vision of hell. There is no in between. Yeah, this particular artist just has a real penchant for I don't know, sleep paralysis demons. So bad. Yep, and Ojo's about to dive down into the radium mines. Also, has anyone noticed that since Dorothy, like, inserted herself into the adventuring party, Ojo's not the main character anymore? Ojo barely speaks now. He was supposed to be the main character. We were all relieved, like, yay, we get someone else other than Dorothy. Dorothy's just like, I'm the main character. Did someone switch the art notes for this with the Book of Revelation? Can you imagine this guy illustrating Book of Revelation? Probably the editor told him he needed her. Maybe. Blech. Yeah, he's like the Hieronymus Bosch of children's book illustrations, you know? It's just landscapes of hell everywhere. Horrors untold. And occasionally weird music coming out of someone's butt. I mean, it's basically Hieronymus Bosch. Alright. Well. Don't show Sean the horrors we've seen. Yeah. Not if you want to get back to sleep, Sean. Oh, fuck. Okay, well. I think I'm gonna wrap up the YouTube stream. YouTube. I'm so sorry for this. This was, it's a weird time reading the Wizard of Oz books. Wait, have we... there's nothing we need to add to the bingo card, is there? Do we need to add anything to the bingo card? Let me pull it up and let's check it. They don't go to a new fairyland. They do go to an area of the land they've never been before. So, like, that one could be argued. Like, it is, like, you know, a kingdom of people that, like, they've never been to before. But it is technically still in Oz. Baum is copying another author. Wait, that one? Fucking Jack Horner? Yeah. There we go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, an argument could be made for this one to be, like, throughout the whole book. Pointless cameo? Who? I mean, it could be argued that, like, the Cowardly Lion and Hungry Tiger were pointless cameos. They didn't, like, do anything for the story. They were just there. Jack Horner? I mean, but he's not like a character from the other Oz books. It is a reference from like a nursery rhyme, but we should have horrors beyond comprehension for every single square and still get them all. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We should cross off dead horse for how many times they explain that joke. Wait. I kind of like that. That's funny. Because they're beating a dead horse. I'm here for that. All in favor? I don't think any actual horses are going to die in this book, you guys. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But we do not make the dead horse counter go up. I've never seen The Wiz. No. Okay, let's see. Yeah, possibly Baum is so over this shit. Possibly they go to a new fairyland, could be argued. But, how have we not ticked off Baum as a misogynist? I don't know. I just... Do diagonals count in bingo? Oh, yeah. Yep. New fairyland, do you guys think? Well, they haven't gone to, like, technically a new fairyland, but they've gone to, like, a different area where it's, like, the land of the hoppers, you know, like... So, it kind of is, right? I think so. I think that counts. Okay. Ooh. Ooh, we're getting close. There's like, we're on the precipice of so many bingos. All right. Okay. Well, we are getting close. We are getting close. Okay. So, well, blah, blah, blah. Never mind. We are gonna wrap up on the YouTube side. We'll be wrapping up shortly on Twitch, but of course we always like raid out somewhere. So, but yeah, YouTube. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry for putting you through this. If you enjoyed it, even in you know, a weird masochistic way, it'd be awesome if you wanted to, you know, subscribe to the channel or drop one of these or leave a comment or something. That would be super cool. That would be awesome. Hi Melina, hello. And I will be back next on Thursday night. We will be potentially finishing this book. We've got 5 chapters left, so it's possible that we will be finishing this book on Thursday. If not, it'll be on Sunday, but hopefully Thursday, and then on Sunday we can get back to reading Robin Hood. But yeah, thank you so much. All right, and Sean has very kindly popped the link to the Twitch channel in there. That's if you want to catch all the content, including ASMR and also like the more chatty portion for the first like hour and a half of the stream. Feel free to come on over there. Yeah, all right. Bye. Bye, YouTube.